your body is 70+% water. The word for water in Kemet on the masculine side is Mu, on the feminine side is Mut. This is Mut. There's a triad called Amen, Mut, and Khensu, but Mut means water. She's the one that governs the great primordial ocean, as well as the ocean around the earth and so forth. That is Mut, the great mother. The water in your body, Mut, is the water and so forth. Just like you have water throughout your entire system, there's a primordial force of water permeating creation, the moisture and so forth, and the oceans and everything else. That's the great mother Mut. So you have Nanet, the wave energy within the black substance of space. The black substance of space is Kayet, and Nanet is the wave energy on the feminine side in the black substance. You have Mut, which is the water, just like the water in your body, but water is a conductor of electricity. And there's a wave energy within water, just like there's a wave energy within the black substance in melanin. The wave energetic force within the black substance is Nanet. And as we saw, her name is spelled with the wave line. The wave energy within water, the water in your body, in your blood cells and so forth, and your blood vessels, is Neat. She's the wave energy within water, within Mut, just like Nanet is the wave energy within the black substance, within melanin, within the black substance. Those are two different forms of wave energy. And then you have Nut, who's the atmosphere. You see her bent over the earth, which is Geb, the earth's crust laying on the ground. That is simply Geb's the earth's crust, and Nut is the atmosphere surrounding the planet. So when you see Nut bent over the earth's crust and so forth, and sometimes you see the stars in her body, that is simply the atmosphere surrounding the planet. That is Nut, and Geb is, her counterpart, the earth's crust in the sky. That Nut is a grandchild of this Nanet. So you have the great mother, Amenet. You have the black substance of space, which is Ka and Kayet. You have the wave energy within the black substance of space, which is Nanet. You have the water that permeates all of creation, that permeates the entire planet and so forth, and permeates 70+% of your body. That is Mut, and that water is a conductor of electricity as well. And that electromagnetic force within water is Neat. But Nut is the atmosphere surrounding the planet. So we wanted to show that when you talk about Amen and Amenet and Ra and Raed and Atem and Atemet, and then Atem and Atemet give birth to Shu and Tefnut, and Shu and Tefnut give birth to Geb and Nut, and Geb and Nut, earth and sky, give birth to Asar, Aset, Set, and Nebuchadnezzar. That is a pedigree. So you have Asar, Set, Set, and Nebuchadnezzar. Their parents are Geb and Nut. Geb and Nut's parents are Shu and Tefnut. Shu and Tefnut's parents are Atem and Atemet. Atem and Atemet's parents are Ra and Raed and so forth. So when you look at that, you'll see that Nut, the sky mother divinity, she's a great, 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 great grandchild of Amenet. There's a difference between this Nut and this Nanet or Nunet, and sometimes she's called Nut as well. Two different divinities. But we need to show that there's a difference between these female divinities. Now we look at her forms. Let's read from the text of Esna. Esna is a temple of Khunrimu and Neat in the central region of Kemet. And they're talking about the king, and they're talking about the divinities and so forth. But then you get into the text talking about Neat. You are the Lady of Victory on the day of combat, who seizes the bow, pulls out the arrows, and overwhelms rebel troops. So she's the great archeress killer. Her strength is great over the 9 bows, talking about the 9 nations of Sudan and Nubia, and the lands fall before her power. She who takes whomever she desires as ruler for all eternity, as the falcon atop the sacred Sedek symbol and so forth. You are the Lady of Heaven, Earth, waters and mountains, whose prestige is elevated among them. You are the lady of the palace, who protects the king, who guards his army, who watches over the two lands and all foreign lands in their entirety. The great Arat, before all gods and goddesses, the living Kerhet, snake who protects his land. The king receives her in jubilation as a supporter of her ka, or soul. She who was confirmed by Tatanen to be lady of millions alongside the falcon of gold, meaning Heru of gold and so forth, namely the deity with his daughter. You are she under whose authority the king appears in glory. Every decree is issued before her. None enters the palace in her ignorance. You are the lady of the quarry, mistress of bracelets, lady of the eastern desert, mistress of Puanit, which is the southern land, into Eritrea and so forth. She for whom the Hoot Bitsi is flooded with her scent as drops of fresh myrrh upon the locks of her hair. Her body is distinguished with the white crown, lady of Heth and Amu, for whom Esderen was made, lady of Rashed and Tefrer. She created all precious stones in order to make all works, lady of Netchem, Ankh mineral, mistress of lapis lazuli, turquoise, and jasper. And so they have a number of different praises for Neat. And they go on with the different praises and her different attributes and so forth. Now, let's look at some more detailed information about how the Whites and Offspring flipped her from, she's the original archeress, and then they're going to flip it to a male divinity. Okay, so we put this document together because we were showing some information about the gold and the female gold, and we talked a little bit in the first piece about how they flipped the ram to a goat and so forth. The Greeks did that, so we had two great ram divinities, and they turned them into goats and so forth, Capricorn, and they had the ram of quote unquote Mendes or Banabjedet. They started calling him a goat, and then they started calling Khumemu a goat as well. So we went into some detail about that in this piece, but it's directly related to me. So the term goat was originally a feminine noun. Male goats were called buka or buck. Thus, if one was trying to determine who was the goat, technically they should have, been looking for a female. So we were showing that originally the term goat is a feminine noun. Now, and it's the Old English word god and feminine noun, referred to only to female goats, while males were called buka or got buka and so forth. So, and then you have billy goats and nanny goats and all of that, but that originally goat was a feminine noun. So we showed that, and we showed the etymological origin of the term and all of that. Now, so then we show the chart, and then we get into, like we said in the first piece, the great Ba, or ram. The word Ba means ram. In the north is Banabjedet. This is him. And the great ram in the south is Khumemu, who we're about to check out. These two ram deities were later referenced as goats during the late period. And we give a quote. They said during the late period, Banabjedet was referred to as the goat of Mendes by the Greeks, who mispronounced the phrase Banabjedet, and so forth. So the goat of Mendes, they tried to turn him into Baphomet, which is nonsense. And some of our people jumped on that Baphomet bandwagon, and they are misrepresenting, trying to say that has something to do with sacred science, which it doesn't. It's nonsense. So, and then you have Khumemu, who is the husband of Neat, who we're going to talk about next week for Capricorn. This is one representing Capricorn, but we're going to touch on him today because they're husband and wife. He's depicted as a man with the flat horns of flat-horn ram and so forth. Some Greek writers, ignorant of the older species, mistake the ram associated with Khumemu, Banabjedet, and the deity Herishef as a goat. Now, in the zodiac, Sagittarius comes before Capricorn. As we can see in the chart, she's the great archer. Here are her three different forms. She's the great mother, elderess. She's the weaver. She's the archeress with the bows and arrows and so forth. We just read about her being that defender of the king and everything else. She's the great archeress, warrioress, but also divine weaver, weaver of ethereal matter. She is thus shown with the bow and arrow or shuttle for weaving and the headdress. This is the temple in Esna. We just read a portion of a text from the walls of this temple when we were reading about Neet and all her functions and so forth. So Neet and Kunwemu corrupted into a goat. He's really around, but he's corrupted into a goat. Neet, you know, is the feminine version, but the goat is originally a feminine noun. Now, why is that related? Neet and Khnum, as husband and wife, are the female and male aspects of both Sagittarius and Capricorn. Sagittarius is Neet, the great archeress, but the masculine side is her husband, Kunwemu. Capricorn is the great male ram, they misnomer the goat, but on the feminine side of Capricorn is Neet. They are husband and wife. Just like Hapi is Aquarius and Merit, the female deity of the Nile River, is the feminine side of that, the river and so forth aspect. They are husband and wife, Hapi and Merit. Well, Neet and Kunwemu are husband and wife, and they govern Sagittarius and Capricorn on both ends. Now here's where the White Star Spring flipped. This is where it goes back to. They flipped Neet and later on into this masculine goat piece. Neet is the great mother warrioress. The Greeks called Neet Athena or Athene. And Athena is the, you know, little warrioress in the Greek tradition and all of that. Athena, when you reverse it, Athene, which is Neet and so forth, that's where they got it from. But this is what's important. In the graves of the oldest settlements at El Badari in Egypt, people were buried wrapped in goat skins. So we did have goats. We also had rams, sacred rams and so forth. But if you're in a region where rams are no longer existing, then their related species is the goat and so forth. So we would invoke them as animal totems as well. In the oldest settlements at El Badari in Egypt, people were buried wrapped in goat skins. In pre-dynastic Egypt, Adam describes this form of burial from the El Badari period. And this is like, you know, pre-dynastic, 6,000 plus BCE and so forth. During the Badarian period, graves were oval or circular, and the bodies were often wrapped in goat skins or mats. This form of interment was a ritual gesture to favor the goddess Neet. Goat skins were also worn by Libyan, meaning North African women, who covered their clothing with bare goat skins, adorned with fringe and dyed red by madder. These aprons, called aegis, were also called Amalthea, after the goat that once fed Zeus. So this is by the time, so the sacred origin of Neet, they're talking about in quote unquote Libya, that's west of Kemet. These are the northern Nubians, western Nubians and so forth, west of Kemet. Then you have the people living south of Kemet in today's Sudan, quote unquote Nubia, Nubi. Those are the southern Nubians. The ones west of Kemet in the so-called Western Desert in Libya, these are the Western Nubians. That's North Africa, North Africa. When the Greeks came across the Waj or the Mediterranean Sea, they came into North Africa and they came in contact of the region that was called Kanu in the past, or Kahnu. Later, it was called Rebu, and later Lebu and Libya. So they came in contact with Libya. This is a major region, sacred sanctuary and place of Neet, the sacred northern shrine, temple, city of Neet is Saud, that the Greeks call Sais. That's in northern Kemet, North Africa,